New CEC under new law. For the first time, the process laid down in a new Act of Parliament was followed to appoint India's Chief Election Commissioner. What necessitated the change? Why was it challenged in the Supreme Court? Prime Minister Narendra Modi, Home Minister Amit Shah, and Leader of Opposition Rahul Gandhi met on Monday evening to select former IAS officer Gyanesh Kumar as the new Chief Election Commissioner of India. Kumar succeeded Rajiv Kumar, who retired on Tuesday. The 30-minute meeting saw Rahul give a dissent note asking the government to defer the appointment until the Supreme Court had decided on the petitions challenging the new process of making the appointment. This was the first time that a selection panel appointed the head of the constitutional body that conducts elections in India. The Election Commission of India is a three-member body comprising the Chief Election Commissioner and two election commissioners, the CEC, first among equals at the ECI, in some ways like the Chief Justice of India among judges of the Supreme Court. No law of parliament existed earlier for the appointment of the CECs and ECs. The President made the appointment on the advice of the Prime Minister. Incumbent CECs have traditionally been succeeded by the next senior most EC. Seniority was usually determined based on which EC was appointed earlier to the Commission. However, both Gyanesh Kumar and Sukhbir Singh Sandhu, the ECs who served on the ECI, along CEC Rajiv Kumar, were appointed to the Commission on the same date, March 14, 24, and both are IAS officers of the 1988 batch. So, who would be considered senior among them? Sources within the government and commission said it is Gyanesh Kumar, since his name appeared first in the appointment notification issued by the Union Ministry of Law and Justice. Thus, under the old system, President would have appointed Gyanesh Kumar as the CEC upon the Rajiv Kumar's retirement. However, this time was different. The new CEC has been appointed under a new law. The Chief Election Commissioner and other election commissioners, Appointment Conditions of Service and Term of Office Act, Appointment Conditions of Service and Term of Office Act 2023, which lays down the procedure for the appointment of both CEC and ECs. Under the procedure prescribed in the Act, a search committee headed by the Law Minister, who currently Arjun Ram Meghwal, and having two senior officials serving as secretaries to the Government of India, must draw up a shortlist of 5 candidates. This shortlist is to be sent to a selection committee made up of the Prime Minister, Leader of Opposition, and a cabinet minister nomination by the PM. Section 8 of the Act gives this committee the power to also consider names outside the shortlisted 5. The current selection committee comprises, besides Prime Minister Narendra Modi and Leader of Opposition Rahul Gandhi, Home Minister Amit Shah. The committee met on Monday evening at the Prime Minister's office in the South Block to select Rajiv Kumar's successor. Notably, Gyanesh Kumar and Sukhbir Singh Sandhu were appointed to the commission in March 2024 under the same process. Sources said shortlist of 5 names each for the post of CEC and EC were placed before the committee which made the selection for both positions. Rahul Gandhi's dissent note was recorded in the proceedings of the meeting. Based on the recommendation of the committee, an official notification was released on Monday night saying that in exercise of the powers conferred on him under the 2023 Act, the President had appointed Kumar as the CEC with effect from February 19. Vivek Joshi, an IAS officer of the 1989 batch, was appointed as the election commissioner with effect from one day he assumed charge of his office. While the new process did not rule out Gyanesh Kumar from becoming CEC, his name was among the 5 shortlisted. It did allow the government to cast its net wider, which it could have potentially used to bring in a CEC other than 2 existing ECs. While the government usually appointed retired senior bureaucrats to the commission in the past, the Act makes the qualifications for the jobs clear. The Chief Election Commissioner and the Election Commissioner shall be appointed from among the persons who are holding or have held a post equivalent to the rank of the Secretary to the Government of India, and shall be persons of integrity who have knowledge of and experience in management and conduct of elections. Section 5 of the Act states: the Act also specifies the term of service of the CEC and ECs. The Chief Election Commissioner and other election commissioners shall not be eligible for reappointment. When an election commissioner is appointed as a chief election commissioner, his term of office shall not be more than 6 years in aggregate, as the election commissioner and chief election commissioner it states. The 2023 Act was brought after an intervention from the Supreme Court following a clutch of petitions filed between 2015 and 2022 that challenged the center's exclusive powers in picking the election commissioners. The court had noted that the framers of India's constitution had never intended to give the executive exclusive appointment powers. The court had noted that framers of Indian constitution had never intended to give the executive exclusive appointment powers concerned about the appointment executive exclusive appointment powers. The Chief Election Commissioners Act. Upon the procedure prescribed in the Act, a search committee headed by law minister, and having two senior officials serving as secretaries must draw a shortlist of five candidates. The shortlist is to be sent to a selection committee made of the Prime Minister, LOP, and Cabinet Minister. Cabinet Minister nominated by the PM. Section 8 of the Act gives committee the power to also consider names outside the shortlisted five. The committee met on Monday evening at Prime Minister's office in South Block to select Rajiv Kumar's successor. Notably, Ganesh Kumar and Sukhbir Singh Sandhu were appointed to the commission in March 24 under the same process. Sources said shortlist of five such names for the post of CC and EC were placed before the committee, which made the selection for both positions. Based on the recommendations of the committee, an official notification was released on Monday night saying that in exercise of the powers conferred on him under the 2023 Act, the President has appointed Kumar as the CEC with effect from February 19. Vivek Joshi of the 1989 batch was appointed as an election commissioner with effect from the day he assumed charge of his office. While the government usually appointed retired senior bureaucrats to the commission in the past, the Act includes qualifications for the job clear. The Chief Election Commissioner and other election commissioners shall be appointed from amongst persons who are holding or have held a post equivalent to the rank of Secretary to the Government of India, and shall be persons of integrity who have knowledge of and experience in management and conduct of elections. The Act also specifies the terms of service of the CEC and the ECs. The Chief Election Commissioner and the other election commissioners shall not be eligible for reappointment. While an election commissioner is appointed as Chief Election Commissioner, his term of office shall not be more than 6 years in aggregate, as the election commissioner and the Chief Election Commissioner it states. The Chief Election Commissioner and the other election commissioners shall be appointed from amongst the persons who are holding or have held a post equivalent to the rank of Secretary to the Government of India, and shall be persons of integrity who have knowledge of and experience in management and conduct of elections. The Act also specifies the term of service of the CEC and the ECs. The Chief Election Commissioner and other election commissioners shall not be eligible for further reappointment. The 2023 Act was brought after an intervention from the Supreme Court following a clutch of petitions filed between 2015 and 22 that challenged the centre's exclusive powers in picking the election commissioners. The court had noted that the framers of India's constitution had never intended to give the executive exclusive appointment powers. Concerned about the devastating effect of leaving appointments solely to the executive, the top court ruled established a new process. In its judgment of March 2023, it ruled that a selection committee comprising of the Prime Minister, Leader of the Opposition in Lok Sabha, and the Chief Justice of India would select the CEC and the ECs until the Parliament enacted a law. Therefore, before any vacancy could arise in the Commission, the government brought the bill in the Parliament, which was passed in December 23. The Act changed the Commission composition of the selection committee from the one recommended by the Supreme Court. It replaced the CGI with the Union Cabinet Minister to be nominated by the Prime Minister, effectively giving the government the final say on who is selected. No, the Supreme Court, as the LOP said, has been hearing petitions challenging the new appointment process. The non-profit group Association for Democratic Reforms has challenged the removal of Chief Justice of India as a member of the selection committee under the new law. Key constitutional question raised by these petitions is whether Parliament has legal authority to override or modify a judgment of the Constitution bench through legislation or by promulgating an ordinance. Although the petitioners sought an early hearing before Rajiv Kumar's retirement, the Supreme Court scheduled it for February 19, a day after his exit. However, Supreme Court Judge Suryakant assured the petitioners that the consequences of the court's decision on the validity of the new act would apply even if the appointments were made in the interim. No, the Supreme Court, as the LOP said, has been hearing petitions challenging the new appointment process. The top court established a new process. In its judgment in March 2023, it ruled that selection committee comprising of President, Prime Minister, LOP, and the Chief Justice would elect the CEC and ECs until the Parliament enacted a law. Therefore, before any vacancy could arise in the Commission, the government brought the bill in Parliament, which was passed in December 23. The Act changed the composition of the selection committee from the one recommended by the Supreme Court. It replaced the CGI with the Union Cabinet Minister to be nominated by the Prime Minister. The key constitutional question raised by these petitions is whether Parliament has the legal authority to override or modify a judgment of the Constitution bench through legislation or by promulgating an ordinance. Although the petitioners sought an early hearing before Rajiv Kumar's retirement, the Supreme Court scheduled it for February 19, the day after his exit. However, the Supreme Court Judge Suryakant assured the petitioners that the consequences of the court's decision on the validity of the new act would apply even if the uh, even if appointments were made in the interim. Allahabadiya bail conditions, Supreme Court's gag order, and the question of free speech. The Supreme Court on Tuesday granted interim protection from arrest in the FIRs registered against the podcaster influencer Ranveer Allahabadiya for its comments on the YouTube show. However, a bench of justices, Suryakant and NK Singh, imposed crucial conditions, including that Allahabadiya or his associates cannot air any content on social media un- until further orders. The Supreme Court also sought the assistance of the Attorney General of India in the next hearing to tackle the vacuum in the regulation of online content. While Allahabadiya was granted relief for the gag order raises some questions of free speech. The order also flies in the face of a Supreme Court judgment that said such a condition could have a chilling effect on the freedom of speech. The petitioner has moved to Supreme Court seeking clubbing of FIRs against him and an interim order preventing his arrest. Essentially, The relief would be akin to granting anticipatory bail. Such pleas are routinely entertained under Article 32 of the Constitution for the enforcement of fundamental rights as a safeguard against arbitrary police action. The pattern of filing multiple FIRs in different jurisdictions for the same cause of action or alleged offense has been noted in several cases as restricting liberty. Courts club the FIR or allow investigations in one FIR while the others are stayed so the petitioner does not have to appear in multiple courts. Ultimately, even if convicted, the accused would serve a common sentence and not consecutive sentences. The petitioner had moved the Supreme Court seeking clubbing of FIRs against him and interim order preventing his arrest. Supreme Court's gag order, the court said the FIRs registered in Jaipur and Guwahati and also any future FIRs on the same set of allegations. It allowed Allahabadia to approach the police for protection or in any event of any threat. But the Supreme Court imposed two conditions: that Allahabadia's his deposit his passport so he does not leave the country, and that he or his associates shall not air any show on YouTube or any other audiovisual mode of communication till further orders. Section 438 Clause 2 of the CRPC stipulates the High Court or the Court of Sessions can direct a person to be released on conditional bail. Court shall impose conditions in the context of the facts of a particular case. For example, condition of depositing a passport is to address situations where the accused could be a flight risk. For example, the condition of depositing a passport is to address the situation accused could be flight risk. Bail could be set at a for a higher monetary value to ensure the accused joins the investigation. Another common condition is that accused should periodically present himself before a police officer. In other cases, courts have imposed onerous bail conditions like sharing a Google Map pin or residing in a particular locality. In 2023 case in which the accused was asked to deposit a huge amount with court for grant of bail, the Supreme Court has observed that setting one onerous bail condition amounts to selling bail. How many times you stood in the Supreme Court and High Court objecting to such onerous conditions? How can we start selling bail like this? However, a gag order while granting protection from arrest is an unusual condition because it is in the nature of of a prior restraint when speech or any other expression is prohibited before it can take place. A body of jurisprudence in India bars the statement from making prior restraint laws. In hate speech cases, the court could observe that the accused cannot make similar statements, essentially tailoring the gag order narrowly to not interfere with speech entirely. In 2022, while granting bail to Altnews co-founder Mohammed Zubair, a three-judge bench headed by D.Y. Chandrachud rejected the government's plea that the accused must be barred from tweeting while on bail, merely because the complaints arise from the posts that were made by him on a social media platform. A blanket anticipatory order preventing him from tweeting cannot be made. A blanket order directing the petitioner to not express his opinion, an opinion that he is rightly entitled to hold, would be disproportionate to the purpose of imposing conditions on bail. The imposition of such condition would tantamount to a gag order against the petitioner. Gag orders have a chilling effect on the freedom of speech, the court said. The court noted that Zubair would need to use social media as a medium of communication for his work and said that a gag order would amount to unjustified violation of freedom of speech and expression and the freedom to practice his profession. Baleen whales and toothed whales. Policing, not protection. UCC regulations on live-in relationships can expose people to many risks. The question of a uniform civil code is extremely fraught in India. Non-marital relationships have never been debated within its purview. However, the Uttarakhand's UCC emphasis on the live-in relationship and regulations have brought forth many debates ranging from legal to social. There are hardly any empirical studies that tell us about the extent, form, contentions in different versions of non-marital relationships of cohabitation, popularly referred to as live-in relationships. In India, most of what we believe about such relationships is derived from anecdotal evidence, popular culture, and media coverage of cases such as the 2022 murder of young woman Shraddha Walker by her living partner. The number of cases filed against the backdrop of living relationships across states has grown exponentially in the last decade and a half, but Uttarakhand does not figure prominently among the states with such litigation. Moreover, the UCC does not seem to be an appropriate response to the concerns that have been brought to the court. Admittedly, right from the onset of 21st century, non-marital relationships of cohabitation have been subject for discussion for the Indian judiciary, policymakers, feminists and legal scholars. The issue gained prominence with aborted attempts to broaden the definition of wife in the criminal procedure code. The moral panic around statements by the celebrities such as Tamil actor Khushbu that was seen as an endorsement of premarital sex also amplified the public attention. However, the inclusion of relations in the nature of marriage within the purview of domestic relations in the Protection of Women from Domestic Violence Act brought into full view that contentious questions around the legal regulation and recognition of non-marital sexual relationships. However, the inclusion of relations in the nature of marriage within the purview of Domestic Violence Protection of Domestic Violence Act brought into view that conditions of questions around the legal regulation and recognition of non-marital sexual relationships. While there are many complex legal questions that the domain of non-marital relations, including those among same-sex partners, give rise to, it is a mistake to assume that such relations have a single variant. Among other possibilities, non-marital cohabitation can be a form of trial marriage, an alternative to conventional marriage, or a relationship in which the divorced and the widowed enter later in life. The period for which people may be in such a relationship and ensuring obligations can also be extremely varied. The patterns are also not entirely new, as in many parts of India, some variations of such relations have been customarily accepted. In some contexts, this can be a relationship in which one of the partners is also married to someone else. Most of this is not appreciated in calls for legal regulation of such relations and is certainly not factored into the UCC. Indeed, it is often forgotten that the initial impetus that brought live-in relationships into the legal purview has to do with protection of women in secondary unions. In cohabitation relations with already married men, Malimat Committee, for example, sought to extend the definition of wife in Section 125 to include a woman who was living with a man as his wife for a reasonably long period during his subsistence of first marriage. This was an acknowledgement of the fact that many women find themselves in relationships that are acknowledged for the fact that many women find themselves in relationships that are like marriage but have no legal protection, often because their male partner is already a married man. Our legal system, however, has been a very resistant to the recognition of rights within such variants of live-in relationships. Almost from the onset, the legal innovations such as these in the Domestic Violence Act of 2005 have been interpreted by courts in a manner that restricts the kind of relationships to which protection is offered. This has been abundantly obvious in judgments given in Velusamy versus D. Pachaiammal, and subsequently in the Indra Sharma versus P.K. Sharma, in which Supreme Court offered a restricted definition of relationship in the nature of marriage. The UCC in the Uttarakhand also operates within the logic of a restricted definition by not only making registering a relationship mandatory but also imposing restrictions on who can enter such relationships and creating a regulatory apparatus within a highly coercive potential. The Act's apparent legal approval of a form of non-marital relationship is counterintuitive. It imposes all trappings of a conventional marriage, which undermines the experimental nature of such relationships, especially among the young who seem to be the target of new law. Instead of providing protection, these regulations can expose men and women in rival relationships to many risks, including moral policing. Like previous lawmaking on such issues, the poor drafting of law may have unintended consequences. In no other part of the world has such law been enacted in the name of offering protection to those in such relations. Do those in such relations need to be legally regulated? Should the law offer some kind of protection to those in such relationships, or should it monitor and police them? What kind of rights and obligations should attach to those in a non marital relationship? What about those who continue to remain outside the purview of such a law, such as those in same sex relations and those who are in relationship with an already married person? While answers to such questions are not easy, they do not seem to have been considered at all in the UCC's maiden attempt to codify relationships that are not necessarily necessarily in need of such regulatory attempts. This refers to the editorial A Fork in the Road. If Donald Trump's effort come to fruition, it would mark a breakthrough in bringing Vladimir Putin to the table, giving Moscow's resolve to press on with its war plans. Otherwise, the terms of the negotiation hinted at so far by the Trump administration make it likely that Ukrainian president will have to accept an unpalatable outcome. This appears inevitable given that the US Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth suggested that no US troop would be committed to Ukraine in any future security arrangements. No US troops would be committed to Ukraine in any future security arrangement. This is likely to have a profound and damaging impact on the security and economy of not only Ukraine but also of the EU. Trump has been vague about his specific intentions for Ukraine and Russia, other than suggesting that a deal will likely result in Ukraine being forced to cede territory that Russia has seized since its annexed Crimea in 2014. It's a waiting game for now. This refers to the editorial Fog in the road. This is not merely a question of deepening divisions in Europe. President Donald Trump's one sided engagement with Russia without accounting for Europe and NATO at large, or even Ukraine, speaks of prioritizing a faster resolution over a safe and equitable one. His recent comments on Gaza without heeding the voices of a displaced resident themselves need to serve as a warning to the leaders of Europe that current US dispensation may sacrifice all other dissenting opinions just to give the appearance of being decisive in getting things done. This refers to the report EC Gyanesh Kumar, new poll panel chief, LOP files dissent, the appointment of Gyanesh Kumar as the chief election commissioner and Vivek Joshi as the election commissioner has sparked a fresh debate. While the government's prerogative in such appointments has acknowledged, the timing of the decision raises concern, especially given the ongoing case before the Supreme Court regarding the composition of the selection panel. Opposition's request for a brief deferral into the court hearing was reasonable. The fact that the meeting proceeded despite the pending judicial review not only undermines the legitimacy of the appointment process but also casts a shadow on the independence and credibility of election commission. As a body responsible for overseeing free and fair elections, the commission must remain beyond reproach. Simplicity is key. This refers to the editorial ease of tax paying. Simple tax laws foster greater public compliance, integration with global best practices, and tax stability, all of which are essential for a country's economic growth. The current Income Tax Act has grown verbose and unwieldy as a result of over 6 decades of tinkering with its provisions, many of which have outlived their purpose. The late N. A. Palkhiwala even called the act as a national disgrace. The government deserves credit for translating years of complete complexity into simplified legislation that aligns with the new tax regime. A comprehensive review of the bill with all stakeholders should occur before it becomes law. Papering over failure in Manipur, President rule is about hiding the abdications of the ruling party, declaring that a situation has arisen in which government of the state cannot be carried out in accordance with the provisions of the constitution. The government of India has taken over the administration of Manipur. The move is, some say, too little too late, while others welcome it as a step to restore constitutional order and peace in the state. These views, while commonsensical, of, of course, obfuscate the reason behind this decision and Union government's dubious role in the making of the Manipur tragedy. The imposition of president rule in Manipur is not because there is absolutely no law and order, an absolute breaking down of constitutional machinery in Manipur, as the Supreme Court has observed 2 months after the violence erupted on May 3rd, 2023. It's worth remembering that the Prime Minister, who had all the time to visit places across the world and even extend his good offices to bring peace in Ukraine, has not visited Manipur to date. He has insisted, including in parliament, that violence has gone down, the situation is normal, and like normal times, school, colleges, and offices and other establishments are functioning in the state. N. Biren Singh was ordered to resign as chief minister by the party leadership in New Delhi, not because he had failed to deal with the lawlessness and violence in Manipur. He had been the man Friday and convenient alibi for the BJP's surreptitious agenda. Sustaining him within a pretext for divisive forces to polarize society and communalize the polity. Lest we forget, Amit Shah admitted on the floor of the House that the then CM was cooperating with the Union government, just as Singh had told the media that whatever he did was with the consent and advice of the Prime Minister and the Home Minister. Without resorting to legitimate constitutional means, the Union government encroached on what Ambedkar called state sovereign and plenary authority, from the appointment of the Chief Secretary and the Director General of Police of the state to the discussion as to who shall head the institution. There that deals with the crucial coordination of security and law enforcement agencies, the Union government had been dictating to the state government from the day from day one of the crisis. Incidentally, Singh had publicly admitted to this encroachment in many ways. For instance, he openly rued that the CID of the state police had not been reporting to him for 15 months. Instances of central security agencies refusing to follow his orders and open confrontation among security and law enforcement agencies were also widely reported in the media, emboldening the decisive and the communal politics that belligerently pursue the bifurcation of the state based on exclusivist communal identities. Singh told the media after meeting the Home Minister that law and order in the valley and the hills were being looked after him and Amit Shah respectively. It's public knowledge that Modi Shah-led BJP sought the help of Kuki armed groups under the suspension of operations agreement during the elections in exchange for consideration of their demands. The result of this subversion is there for all to see. Despite the presence of more than 60,000 central troops over and above the local police, this beautiful state has been subjected to unprecedented pain and humiliation, resulting in colossal loss of lives and properties of innocent denizens. Thus, to see President rule as a move by the government to restore the constitutional order is a cruel joke inflicted on a suffering people. This latest move is an attempt to hide the failures of the ruling party and its double engine government. There have been growing resentment among the members of the BJP led ruling alliance that sinks against Singh's style of functioning. Many of them could sense the growing public dislike for the BJP due to its handling of the ongoing crisis and the tangible prospect that a party would be routed in the next assembly election if the present situation continues. As a result, the BJP faced the likelihood of an open rebellion, including a possible no confidence motion in the assembly. These developments compelled the party bosses in Delhi to act against Biren Singh, who is seen by many as part of the problem. Yet, despite enjoying an overwhelming majority in the state assembly, they could not come to a consensus who could replace him. Hence, the decision to impose president rule for normalcy to return to Manipur, and for justice for the people of the state, there has to be accountability, including for the conduct of the union government. Only joint parliamentary committees to examine multiple dimensions of the crisis in Manipur can fix this accountability, not president rule. Uncertainty is built into the game, but there was beauty of certainty to cricket between India and Pakistan. The neighbors' refusal to host each other is tragic. Days before Champions Trophy, a Pakistan cricketer texted a curt reply when asked if their fans would miss watching Indian superstars Kohli and Rohit Sharma. Why don't you ask these questions to Indian players? Clearly, India's refusal to cross the border hasn't gone down well in Pakistan. In 23, after much hand-wringing, the Babar Azam's team travelled to India for the 50-over World Cup. Having taken the first step, the Pakistan Cricket Board has expected reciprocity. The ICC event means the world to them. India and its fans would have lit up the Champions Trophy, certified a normalcy in troubled country, and given fillip to its tottering economy. Reacting to the snub, Pakistan has now decided to avoid all India trips in the future. This isn't rhetoric but a signed and stated official stand endorsed by the ICC. The cricket door between the two cricketing nations isn't just shut, it's been sealed and bricked. It wasn't always this bad. The last time Pakistan got to conduct a tournament of this magnitude was in 1996 when it hosted a 50 over World Cup with India and Sri Lanka. Eden Gardens had the opening ceremony, Gaddafi Stadium the final. It was an event that gave Pakistan an unprecedented windfall and also showcased the strength and solidarity of cricket's now defunct Asian bloc. Even before the first ball was bowled, a crisis would emerge. In a sudden turn of events, Australia, citing safety concerns over LTT's bombing threats, refused to travel to Sri Lanka. Overnight, a joint Indo-Pak cricket team was formed and put on a plane to Colombo to play an exhibition game against Sri Lanka. This was to make a point, show the West that Sri Lanka wasn't what they were perceived. That friendly game would start with Pakistan captain Wasim Akram getting Lankan Romesh caught by Sachin Tendulkar at a short cover. For years to come, the most cynical subcontinent cricket reporters, and after drowning a few drinks, would get misty eyes describe the sight of Akram and Pakistan players running towards Tendulkar and wrapping the little master in a big collective hug. At that one-of-a-kind game, India's Indian captain Mohammad Azharuddin would say, "This proves to the world that we are together." Akram would underline the subcontinental brotherhood. He wanted more such joint team games. Pakistan manager and former captain Intikhab Khan Alam, a good old peacenik like the Indian friend Vishen Singh Bedi, called occasion historic. But this time neighbors seem to have drifted away too far. The TV studios are brimming with anger, and Sikandar Bhakt, the lively pacer who bowled alongside fast bowling legends from Irfan Khan around his country, picking a medium pacer in the Champions Trophy side. These these selectors are nalayak, khuda ka khauf. You have picked 125 kmph bowler in the team, says the former player of the nations with a sparkling pace legacy. Benazir Bhutto was the then Prime Minister and the Muslim League was in the opposition. Corruption and income disparity had made the population cynical and politicians unpopular. But Pakistan at that point, unlike now, had the support of its neighbors, a better team, and that at one precious possession, hope. They knew the two Ws could still be trusted to win games. Imran Khan, while raising funds for his cancer hospital, was slowly transforming from a social activist to a political alternative. Back in '96, the World Cup had a theme song by the rock stars of the globally popular band Junoon. They kept repeating the one phrase, "Pehch- "Pehchan kabhi na bhulo." They were reminding the team and the nation not to forget its identity and legacy. Uncertainty is all very well on the cricket field, but there was beauty of certainty to Indo-Pak cricket. The end of them hosting each other is cricket's greatest tragedy. New CEC can begin by being more welcome of questions, responding in the impartial voice of constitutional authority. New Chief Election Commissioner Gyanesh Kumar comes to his office in a challenging moment for the Election Commission. To begin with, there is a controversy over the appointment. Leader of opposition Rahul Gandhi, part of three-member panel, has made his protest over the midnight decision public, alleging it was disrespectful and discourteous of the government to go ahead while appointment process was being challenged. The government acted as per the law it enacted after being prodded by the Supreme Court. This controversy will be resolved after the issue gets its day in court. But the new CEC's task is an arduous one. He takes charge amid a heightened political polarization. On one end is the government entering a third term with a paired down tally but notching up successive electoral gains, and on the other, an opposition with a larger foothold but still flailing for a way forward. The Election Commission also shows signs of an institutional fraying that is both the cause and the result of larger denting of public trust in the graph of sleepy institution that was awakened to its formidable constitutional mandate and powers of the then CEC-TN session in the 1990s can be said to have waxed and waned after that as it continues to draw admiration for its administration of one of the most unique and complex tasks of election management. In recent elections, the opposition has stepped up the decibel levels of questions about the fairness of poll process. These have ranged from a clamor over the alleged unreliability of EVMs to doubts over delays in making turnout data public to accusations of illegitimate additions and deletions in electoral rolls. There is more noise and little evidence for the many of these allegations, which have not withstood the scrutiny of the court. The impression that they are being used as stand-in for harder reckoning by the elections losers is also unavoidable. Outgoing CEC Rajiv Kumar has a point. Therefore, when he expresses concern over the spread of rumor and for the EC being unfairly blamed by those unwilling to accept electoral outcomes, having said that, however, CEC Ganesh Kumar must pause and ask what the EC has done and what it can do to shore up faith in one of India's most distinguishing institutions. There are genuine concerns that a powerful are able to tilt the playing field or the election calendar to their advantage, and anxieties that the poll monitor has given to the ruling party that the benefit of the doubt. Rajiv Kumar has joined the poll panel and controversy over EC's alleged double standard over Model Code of Conduct violations in 2019, and it was in his tenure as CEC that Commission's decision to send notices to party president for words spoken by their leaders marks a dubious first. The EC needs to address apprehensions about its conduct in an open and transparent manner. It must engage with all players and stakeholders as monitorial institution. It cannot appear either evasive or combative vis-a-vis opposition's concerns. The new CEC could begin by opening the doors of this institution to all those who might have a question and draft his response in a tone that echoes the impartial voice of a constitutional authority, not that of an angry outburst by a party spokesperson. And as Assam CM takes on political rivals, he must desist from giving the impression that he is weaponizing law in a witch hunt. Assam Chief Minister Himanta Biswa Sarma is an astute politician who has been part of the state government across dispensations. For much of this year so far, his focus has been on Advantage Assam 2.0 summit meant to attract investors in the state. Sarma has met foreign dignitaries and traveled to multiple countries to promote the event, yet the BJP leader seems not to realize that the push for FDI sits uneasily with the politics that stokes specters of the foreign hand. Over the last several days, Sharma has strenuously peddled allegations that Congress leader Gaurav Gogoi is involved with Pakistan's ISI and other foreign agencies, and that through his wife, a British national. The Assam police have filed an FIR against the Pakistani climate policy expert Ali Tawqir Sheikh. Over the last few days, Sharma has strenuously peddled allegations that Congress leader Gaurav Gogoi is involved with Pakistan's inter-services intelligence and other foreign agencies is involved, and Pakistani climate policy expert Ali Tauqir Sheikh Sharma's political rival's wife's colleague, which includes charges under the UAPA. The apparent basis for this, along with the CM's rash accusations for the pulpit, is a series of tweets by Sheikh on Assam's treatment of minorities. It is difficult not to see the controversy as contrived of for political ends. Even in the deeply polarized and political polarization of the day, it is rare to see families and spouses dragged through the mud in the manner. There was a sense recently that Sharma was looking to frame a politics that went beyond conspiracies and communal dog whistles, his focus on the Advantage Assam Summit, highlighting the 2,700 crore semiconductor plant by the Tatas and the push towards dealing with infant and maternal mortality appeared promising. It seemed that the CM could envision a politics beyond land jihad and fertilizer jihad, flood jihad, and the specters of illegal migration. Through a divisive rhetoric, he may be aiming for a political capital, but his strategy is self-defeating. First, he takes a pessimistic view of what the voters want, and second, such a pitch often delivers diminishing political returns and comes in a way of establishing reputation for governance. Third, a climate of parochialism and fear is not conducive to kindling the animal spirits of entrepreneurship and investors. Sarma is free to take on his political rivals, including Gogoi, but Sarma would do well to desist from giving the impression that he is weaponizing the law and police in a witch hunt. Setting an example quietly, Kamlesh's Chopal's life inspires generation of Dalit youth, cultural nationalists. In a world of politics and social activism, there are first a few figures who embody simplicity, devotion, and perseverance as much as Kam- Kameshwar Chopal, a true embodiment of the values of simple living, high thinking. Chopal's contributions were immense, yet the name often remained in the shadows of much larger narrative of the modern Indian history. He was a rare gem, an RSS Swayamsevak, two-time member of Legislative Council in Bihar, member of Sri Ram Janmabhoomi Kshetra Nyas Trust, and the leading figure in like the VHP, etc. Chopal was from the Dalit community, and for him to scale the heights that he did would stands as a remarkable achievement. In particular, his association with Ram Mandir movement in Ayodhya remains one of his defining legacies. He was a car sevak who laid the first brick of the Ram Mandir in 1989. This simple act, which holds immense symbolic value, showcases not only his devotion to the cause but also the deep connection he felt to the Hindu culture. The Ram Mandir, after all, is not merely a monument but a symbol of resurgence of the Hindu pride. However, it is quieter, often overlooked contributions of Chopal that make him stand out. His association with Ram Janmabhoomi, for example, went largely unnoticed in the media and public discourse, yet his role was invaluable in a country where the Dalit community is often seen through narrow lens. Chopal's participation in the Ram Temple movement serves as a powerful reminder that Dalits have a long and proud history in Hindu culture. Space of his own, opposition needs to carve it out amid BJP's near dominance. That's a challenge. The Gatecrashers party has finally been thrown out of its first gate. It crashed 10 years ago. In a process, another party that fundamentally disrupted India politics has eased out the disruptor whose sections of the media and middle classes romanticized 10 years ago. AAP is one of the most recent examples of a new party successfully entering competitive era. In Delhi, Congress has again shown it is oblivious to the critical role thrust upon by the present moment. If routine internal feuds marked its failure in Haryana or organizational laziness caused such debacle in Maharashtra, suicidal approach marks its third consecutive failure in the NCR. The lessons from Delhi defeats for Congress, AAP and opposition parties are not just about where they went wrong. Beyond one such immediate consideration, they have three immediate lessons. One is about challenge of expanding one's own party and at the same time building bridges with other parties. The balancing requires a hard-nosed understanding of one's limitation and an investment in organization building. The second lesson is the need to identify the most proximate voter for the party. It's true that every party would want to attract voters across social sections, but beyond that broader ambition, it is essential to locate the strongest support the party is likely to gain. Tactically, it is useful to know that the disappointed BJP voters, but the need not mean giving up on the core values of the social base visualized by each non-BJP parties. The third lesson starkly exemplified by the AAP's case is how to be different. If AAP doesn't take on the BJP Hindutva, if the TMC doesn't adopt to a more democratic governance model, if Congress in Karnataka or the Telangana is not content merely to compete with the BJP in terms of so-called welfare schemes, only then the opposition can carve out of near dominance of the BJP. Clearly, the Delhi election, withering of the Mahavikas Aghadi in Maharashtra, and the overall dispersal of India's bloc signal that the opposition is losing steam, mainly because of the ideological flourish, and the opposition is losing steam that characterized the christening of India has quietly faded away. This is mainly because beyond the immediate and opposition lacks the opposition beyond the intermediate the opposition lacks in perspective. US Russia pledged to find way to end Ukraine war. Senior US and Russian officials agreed Tuesday to establish teams of work towards end war in Ukraine, finding a path toward normalizing relations. US Russia plans to build confidence. First, both countries will negotiate how to remove restrictions placed on each other's embassies in Moscow and Washington, which are operating with skeletal staffs for years after years of tit for tat expulsions. Milei faces fraud probe in cryptocurrency case, Argentina. Argentine President Javier Milei. A judge in Argentina was selected Monday to investigate allegations of the fraud Xavier Milei for his brief promotion of cryptocurrencies whose value collapsed. Delta plane flips upside on snowy Toronto runway. All 80 aboard survive. A Delta Airlines jet flipped on its roof while landing on Monday. Snow blown by winds gusting to 40 km swirled when the flight of the Minneapolis aircraft carrying 76 passengers and 4 crew attempted to land around 2:15 p.m. Communications between the tower and pilot were normal on approach, and it's not clear what went so drastically wrong when the plane touched down. Peter Carlson, a passenger traveling to Toronto's Pearson Airport. Peter Carlson, a passenger for a paramedics conference, said the landing was very forceful. All of the sudden, everything just kind of went sideways, and then next thing you know, it's kind of a blink, and I'm upside down, still strapped in. Canadian authorities held two brief news conferences but provided no details on the crash. Video posted to social media the f- after the f- showed the aftermath with the Mitsubishi RZ-900LR overturned, the fuselage seemingly intact, and firefighters dousing what was left of the fire, and the passengers climbed out and walked across the tarmac. We are very grateful that there was no loss of life and relatively minor injuries, Delta CEO Ed Bastian said in a statement. The hearts of the entire global Delta family are with those affected. Israeli troops withdraw from South Lebanon villages return. Israel will begin talks on the next phase of Gaza ceasefire this week. Four candidates want to be Germany's next chancellor: Olaf Scholz, Friedrich Merz, Robert Habeck, and Alice Weidel. Good first step: researchers link the gene to the emergence of a spoken language. Post-COVID demand plateaus, health premium growth halves in last 10 months. The health insurance sector's growth rate, which witnessed a significant surge in the aftermath of COVID pandemic, appears to be losing momentum. This, according to analysts, indicates that a pandemic-driven boost may be fizzling out, with the economy losing steam. Growth in direct minimum income underwritten in the health insurance segments plummeted to 10.44% during the 10 months ended January 25. Despite the slowdown, the sector managed to cross 1 lakh crore mark in gross premium income from 90,000 crore. Lifestyle purchases, online gaming, and dining out discretionary spending. Why Argentina's president is in hot soup over a crypto promotion? Argentina President Javier Milei is seen on television during an interview. Unemployment rate drops marginally to 6.4% in December quarter. Unemployment rate drops marginally to 6.4%. Tesla job post signal entry. VSAT players to vacate key spectrum band for telecos. In a move set to benefit telecom operators and consumers, the government will be directing very small aperture terminal service providers, such as Tata Group's Nelco, Hughes Communications, and Inmarsat to vacate the 6 GHz spectrum band to make way for the high-speed 5G and future 6G networks. While the transition will lead to better mobile connectivity, it will come as a steep cost for VSAT players, who will be forced to migrate to alternative bands. Currently, VSAT operators use 300 MHz in the 6725 to 7025. TCS accused of visa fraud in the US. Goel hints at more tariff relief for the US under the trade deal. We suffered for 10 years when no side came here, but Pakistan still produced results, so we have no doubts our ability. KIIT student's death, racist remarks echo in Nepal's parliament. Odisha sets up panel. Nepal's parliament witnessed angry scenes Tuesday as opposition members protested the alleged suicide of a 20-year-old student from the country at KIIT in Bhubaneswar. They also expressed outrage over racist remarks made by some university staff members against students demanding probe into the death. This came even as the Odisha government formed a fact-finding committee and police arrested five persons, three senior KIIT staff members and two security guards for allegedly assaulting agitating students on Monday. As soon as the Nepal's House of Representatives assembled, the opposition members said the response of the KIIT authorities to the death of Prakriti Lamsal, a third-year BTech, a computer science student, and flagging trial today, Supreme Court grants bail to VVIP chopper case accused Mikhail. India and Qatar elevate ties through in trade, energy and investment. Strategic partnership, doubling of bilateral trade in 5 years announced. Qatar is a key player and mediator in the ongoing conflict between Israel and the Hamas. Delhi buys a massive amount of natural gas from Qatar and has large community living there. It also wants Doha to invest in India's infrastructure. As the Prime Minister Narendra Modi and Amir Sheikh Tamim bin Hamad Al Thani held talks in New Delhi, India and Qatar decided to elevate their ties to a strategic partnership. Pervert Mind, no show still order, Supreme Court on Allahabadiya as it grants interim relief. Stage set in Karachi today, India waits in Dubai wings, public will miss out. Trade, investment, energy and investment, India-Qatar elevate expedite negotiations on India-Qatar bilateral investment treaty, explore a bilateral comprehensive economic partnership engagement, Qatar's commitment to invest $10 billion, Qatar Investment Authority to open an office, nationwide rollout of UPI acceptance in Qatar, celebrate India-Qatar Year of Agriculture, Friendship and Sports in near future. Extension of e-visa facility for Qatari nationals. Has terminated the services of two security guards and suspended two women hostel staff who allegedly made offensive remarks against agitative students. In the video widely circulated, two women staff are heard saying the amount spent by the founder of the university for free education of 40,000 underprivileged students was more than the annual budget of Nepal. The state government sought an explanation from the KIIT authorities on action taken against two women staff. The incident has hit the state's reputation. Delhi police note flags rush to platform 16. Railway says wait for the final probe report. Court stays order to file FIR against SHO after five men forced to sing national anthem. Madhya Pradesh, an ideal investment destination, is all set to take up a global flight on a path of investment. Industry friendly policies and innovations to drive investment growth. PVR fined 1.28 lakh for wasting 25 minutes on ads. Appointed under TN caste reform to priest alleged temple discrimination. Every month, NSO enumerators collect retail prices from over 50,000 retail shops across 2295 markets in India. CPI's item basket and weights are based on household consumption expenditure survey of NSO. One of the key policy inputs for monetary policy decisions, provide insights on the movements of retail prices in the country. Implement the three new criminal laws by April in J&K. Need to use trial in absentia. Sunil Lamsal, father of the 20-year-old Nepal student in Bhubaneswar Tuesday, decided to send her to India after varsity's workshop in Kathmandu. Prakriti Lamsal's father. Barely 2 hours before she ended her life, 20-year-old, who hailed from Nepal's Kathmandu, was pursuing engineering at Odisha's KIIT, promised her mother over the phone that she would call her once she returned to her home room from the college fest. The next call her parents received was from the university, informing that Prakriti has died by suicide and they should reach Bhubaneswar as soon as possible. She is gone, but this shouldn't happen with other students. Students from far off areas come here to study. She said Prakriti was a brilliant student who dreamt of prosperous career in IT industry and to make her parents proud. Man gets death penalty for a rape of a 7-month-old. How Chandrayaan 3 lander made surprise moon hop. So that's all for today. A man without vote is a man without protection. See you in the next one.